5.
Curry hits a three.
4.
Just on the drive. Deep left field.
3.
Patrick hit by Watt. Sack number 10.
2.
Messi with a record-breaking goal.
1.
Welcome to BSS Sports. Now, here are your hosts, Steve and Trevor.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of BSS Sports. My name is Steven Schill with the ever-lovely Trevor Struthers, and we were blessed this weekend with some good football. This time, it wasn't like last week where it was all blowouts. Every game was worthwhile to watch, at least for a half. So, the Atlanta Falcons take on the Seattle Seahawks and beat them 36-20. New England Patriots do beat the Houston Texans 34-16. Not a huge shocker there, but we'll touch on it nonetheless. The Dallas Cowboys lose to Green Bay in an extraordinary fashion, and the Pittsburgh Steelers get away with a holding call in the last few seconds of play to take out the Kansas City Royals 18-16.
Chiefs.
What did I say?
Royals.
Oh, well, yeah, I meant the Chiefs. Wow. Thinking of baseball. Another news, talking about Jose Bautista later as well. A little bit of foreshadowing for you. So, Trevor, Richard Sherman, he's out of the playoffs. And he didn't really have anything big to say. This is shocking, or is it?
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised. I went with Seattle in that game. I think everybody kind of underrates what Atlanta can do, and I mean, they just keep rolling. And I think it's because it's Matt Ryan, and we can never take Matt Ryan seriously, but I guess now we have to.
36 points against the Legion of Boom.
True. I mean, Seattle has a great defense, and now they're just one win away from going to the Super Bowl potentially. And I mean, now they don't even have to face the Cowboys. They get this game at home as well, so... yeah, I think we've kind of been underrating Atlanta because they have a lot of offensive weapons, whether it's Julio Jones through the air or Devontae Freeman on the ground. They got a lot of guys that can hurt you. And obviously, I mean, Matt Ryan, like I said, he's having an MVP-type season, although we can't seem to take him seriously. So, and their defense is good enough to hang in there and give their offense some opportunities to put them in front.
Do you think that this changes the race at all for the MVP? Because I thought it was for more or less the regular season, but the MVP for the league still hasn't been named. If Matt Ryan goes to the Super Bowl, or even if he wins it, does this change the race at all for who should win the MVP?
As far as I know, the way they should do it, I'm not sure when they do, is that they should vote after the regular season. Most leagues do. Therefore, what happens in the playoffs is irrelevant towards the regular season MVP. And so I don't think it should change it if they haven't done the voting yet, because, I mean, that's essentially what the award is, the regular season MVP. And so I imagine if they were like most leagues, the voting's already done.
So for the New England-Houston game, it was kind of strange, more for the fact that everybody counted Houston out right away. But they're the number one defense, and yes, Tom Brady's amazing, but, I mean, everybody can be beat at some point. Obviously, it wasn't that game, but the Houston Texans, they played well. Brock Osweiler wasn't terrible. I mean, they got 16 points, so he did okay. But the defense gave Tom Brady issues, but New England still scored 34 points.
Yeah, Osweiler wasn't that bad, and I mean, yeah, that was definitely the key matchup going in, was going to be Tom Brady and that Patriots offense against the Texans defense. And they even got him to throw a couple of picks in that game, which is something that Tom Brady, he threw like 2 picks all season. So right there, I mean, the defense did technically have a good game. It's tough to shut down an offense with Tom Brady, and I mean, Deion Lewis was able to contribute as well in that game to a running game and had that big touchdown return as well, which really put Houston, in a situation. I mean, you can try to shut down Tom Brady, but when that opens up the running game, then that's when you start to get into trouble, and that's what happened a bit in that game. And I mean, I don't think anybody's surprised at the outcome. It was definitely close there until half, and then in the second half they opened it up a bit more. I think it was Tom Brady just adjusting to the game and adjusting to the defense, and he was able to find another way to get a win.
Probably the best game we've seen in a while was the matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. And going into it, everybody was unsure of what exactly to expect. Everybody, again, seems to be on the Aaron Rodgers train, as always. But on the other side of the field, you got Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. And Ezekiel had 125 yards. Dak Prescott had 302 yards. But Dak got off to kind of a not-so-fast start, and then Green Bay just ended up taking her in the last second, with Rodgers having 356 yards. And I mean, if you look at it, Dak Prescott, that's 50 yards off of a guy who's arguably already going to the NFL Hall of Fame and in his prime. So, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys put up a heck of a fight, but what do you do next season with the whole Tony Romo thing?
That'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason with Tony Romo. There definitely are options out there. You know, there's places where guys are obviously looking for quarterbacks. That's going to be the case of it. In any offseason, somebody's going to be looking for a quarterback. Houston could use one. Cleveland, like the list is just... There's a list of probably 5 teams that could use a quarterback, and Tony Romo's not a bad option. He's an expensive option, but he's not a bad option. And so there'll be interest from there, but it would be interesting to see what the Cowboys want back. And that money makes it interesting as well to see if somebody's willing to take on that contract. As for the game, that was a tremendous game, obviously. And, the Cowboys, some people might come out of this game saying... that's what you get, when you ride a rookie quarterback and a rookie running back as your 2 offensive catalysts all year long. They finally get into the playoffs. They get that first week bye, but then when they finally start playing in the divisional round, that they get beat. And that maybe contributed a little bit, but I mean, as you read it off the numbers, I mean, Dak Prescott had a pretty good game. I feel like he picked it up a lot late there in that attempt to try to keep the game tied. I mean, they had that touchdown and then the 2-point conversion, and then at that point it became a field goal off. So they did a good job keeping it close. Ezekiel, I feel like, also got off to a bit of a slow start and tried to pick up as they went on. But I mean, that stuff like that's going to happen when you have young guys playing their first career NFL playoff game. I mean, the atmosphere is something totally in and of itself, especially when you're playing at home as a Dallas Cowboy. That's got to be a crazy atmosphere. As for the Packers, they just continue to roll. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is on fire right now. You mentioned the Aaron Rodgers train. I know I'm on it. I don't know if many other people are, but I mean, they're exciting to watch. They get the win even without Jordy Nelson because, I mean, you could put anybody on the field and Aaron Rodgers will find a way to throw. Like, you and me could be wide receivers on the Green Bay Packers. Maybe we still win that game. He's that good. He's able to buy himself more time. He's sort of mobile, but he's not like a crazy, guy that you're thinking is going to run the football all the time. But he knows how to move around in the pocket and find guys, and that's exactly what he did. And, I mean, people are wondering, hey, is he going to have time for a Hail Mary to end this game? Wouldn't that be something? But, I mean, Mason Crosby, third longest field goal in NFL playoff history with that 56-yarder, and then made 2 51-yarders because Dallas tried to ice him there at the end of the game. I mean, it's really a toss-up as to who was the best player for the Packers, even on that drive, because you had Aaron Rodgers doing what he does, right? The quarterback. You're always going to look at the quarterback. Then you had that great catch by Cobb down the sideline, where I don't know how he kept his feet in, because it definitely looked like he was out of bounds just from like the original view before I saw a replay. So that was incredible. That set up the 51-yard field goal, and yeah, like I said, Mason Crosby, I mean, a 56-yarder and essentially 2 51-yarders, because he made the kick that they iced him on, and then the second one. It was really an incredible performance, and out of that last 5 minutes, I can't pick who was the best Green Bay Packer.
For the whole NFL playoffs, or at least in the final couple of matchups, it's been seeming that everybody's missing something. New England, it's Rob Gronkowski. Houston, it's J.J. Watt. Green Bay, it was Jordy Nelson. And for Dallas, kind of Tony Romo. So it's interesting to see all these players still performing without their arguable superstars to an extent, which is intriguing. But finally, the game, Pittsburgh versus Kansas City. Pittsburgh and Big Ben. Wow. Okay, they're decent. They're a decent team. They're playing in Kansas City, which, as we've known this season, everybody's been harping, that is a hard stadium to play in, but they pull it out, and they're going to go against New England. There was a dirty hit at the end of the game, close to it. Davis on the one of the defensive backs of the Steelers, clocking one of the Chiefs. I don't know off the top of my head who it was. A little bit dirty, but in the final couple of seconds, there's a holding call on the 2-point conversion, which would have tied this game. But then, because of the hold call, the play moves back 10 yards, And then the player who made the dirty hit against the Kansas City Chiefs player was the one back on defense and was able to stop the final play, which resulted in Pittsburgh win. But with that being said, the thing that kind of confused me is the play, 2 plays, I believe, before that, Davis, who originally did the dirty hit, went down on a knee saying he was injured, but he did it right next to the sidelines, and he looked fine, and they got kind of a timeout out of that. I don't know if that was to rest the players, try to mess with the refs, the other team, but it didn't actually look like he was hit. I don't know if you were watching the game at the time, but it just felt like this was not... It didn't feel like he was actually injured. It just felt like he was faking it, trying to mess with the refs, mess with the game. What was your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, just the way you described, pretty much everything from that game, it was messy. So, I mean, that's maybe a key word for how that game ended up playing out there towards the end, was just messy. The failure to get that 2-point conversion because of offensive holding, that's gonna hurt for a while for the team. But I mean, besides that, just that failure to get that 2-point conversion. Kansas City, though, I mean, they're an offense that can hit you in a lot of ways. You know, when Spencer Ware's going, I mean, they have Tyreek Hill that can do a lot of things. And Alex Smith didn't have a bad year. Wasn't exactly my fantasy quarterback of choice because I had Aaron Rodgers. And Alex Smith, I mean, I started the year with him as my backup and ended up dropping him. But, I mean, Alex Smith's a guy that he's not like a great quarterback, but he knows what he's doing with what he has to work with. And that's all Kansas City needs. And then their defense, very bend don't break, as they said on the broadcast, is they'll take hits, they can give up field goals, but they're very good at preventing touchdowns. And it was a field goal kind of game for the Steelers, the team that ended up winning it. They got, I don't know how many field goals in that game, and all said and done, they had 3 pretty early. So, but I mean, and that's because Kansas City's good at stopping you from getting 7 and keeping you to 3, and ultimately it gives their offense a chance. It's just they couldn't come up with that 2-point conversion late.
You're listening to BSS Sports on 91X with Steven Schill and Trevor Struthers. Going to talk a bit about the Blue Jays and then UFC, and then we are all wrapped up. So, Trev, more talk about Jose Bautista.
Well, yeah, I mean, things are heating up with him in the Blue Jays. Last I checked, nothing official yet, but the report there is that he could be coming back to Toronto. And as you can imagine, some fans liking the news, some fans hate it. There's no other way to put it other than that. And I mean, that's a polarizing player in a way, even for a home fan base, is when, you know, half the fan base seems to like you, half the fan base seems to hate you. But I mean, I'm even seeing quite a few in this early. I mean, I'm seeing quite a few. Hey, we'd rather have Edwin, where, I mean, no doubt, clearly you would, I guess, technically, because, like, he's a guy, I mean, he was going to DH Edwin anyway, right? But, I mean, Bautista's almost at that stage now where he can't play on the field anymore, and, I mean, but Edwin's also the more expensive option and the guy that other teams had more interest in. I think it makes a lot of sense for Jose to come back. I don't know what they're going to end up doing. I mean, what happens is he's not let's face it, Jose Bautista, not a great outfield option right now. I mean, nobody's saying he is at this point, you know, late in his career. But what the Blue Jays need is they do need outfield options. Jose Bautista is a guy that has been here for a while. That's where he hit stardom. And, I mean, technically, as of right now, he is still a right fielder that can play right field, and he is arguably the top right fielder on the market. And so from that standpoint, I mean, the Blue Jays need outfielders. Maybe we see even Michael Saunders come back. I mean, it only makes sense for the Blue Jays to reach out to Jose Bautista and probably agree to something.
So, in the UFC news, if you've ever been a fan of the UFC, the name BJ Penn will ring a bell. But he decided to take on Yadir Rodriguez last night, who was ranked number 10 in the UFC rankings for his division and got absolutely destroyed. BJ Penn looked awful. The fight was just wrong from the get-go. If you don't know who Yadir Rodriguez is, he's a Mexican who's basically touting himself as the new MMA style. He's just all over the place. You can't predict him. Massive kicks everywhere, flying. Super entertaining, nonetheless, but BJ Penn looked horrible.
Yeah, I mean, he got lit up, and I mean, there's no other way to put it. Rodriguez is going to be a star in that division. He's on like a 6-7 fight win streak now, and he's only headed up. And, you know, he was ranked number 10 going into that fight, and beating. I mean, BJ. It's interesting to see how the rankings will play out from here, because BJ Penn, I mean, he hasn't fought. That was his first time fighting since 2014, so it's not like he's ranked, and you can go somehow based off that for where he could for where Rodriguez could go. But Rodriguez definitely looking at somewhere in the top 10, fighting somebody there and really making an impact. BJ Penn, on the other hand, I mean, clearly a legend in the sport, tried to come back. Came up short, to say the least. I mean, he got destroyed in there. So maybe it's time for him to call it a career. I'll be really intrigued to see what ends up happening with BJ Penn, just because he is such a legend in the UFC and in MMA. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But, I mean, maybe it's time for BJ Penn to call it a career.
And on top of that, we now know that Anderson Silva has been added to UFC 208. For some reason, we're bringing back all of the old dogs. That's it for this edition of BSS Sports. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook, archiving all of our works on YouTube at BSS Productions. For Trevor, Struthers, and myself, Steven Schill, we'll catch you next Monday.